President-elect Donald Trump's meetings continue at Trump Tower in New York City. Meanwhile, Vice President-elect Mike Pence is headed to Capitol Hill today to talk with members of Congress. Speculation is still swirling over who will be in Trump's administration.
You don't form a federal government overnight, and these are very serious issues, very serious appointments, very serious considerations. We're pretty much on track to where other administrations have been, and definitely internally in terms of vetting different candidates and thinking through and interviewing different people, and that will just continue. So it's not the kind of thing to rush through.
No administration is ready on day one. We weren't ready on day one. I've never met one that's ever been ready on day one. But I'm confident on day one, everything will be in good hands, and they'll be handled anything that can come before it.
Now, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, also being considered for a top White House position. Joining us now is Democratic strategist Evangeline Gomez and Republican strategist Gianna Caldwell. Good to see you both. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot of moving parts this morning. Evangeline, let me kick it off with you. Your reaction to what we're hearing in terms of the Trump transition and new administration being put together.
Well, we're hearing that Governor Nikki Haley is one of the choices for Secretary of State, which, you know, I'm all for women being a part of this administration. And she seems like a pretty good pick, someone who's solid. In regard to Jared Kushner, I think you're going to see a lot of pushback from the Democrats because this is someone who's related to him. You do have a law that deals with nepotism, and I think you may see some grumbling from the Democrats here.
Well, wasn't Hillary saying she was going to put Bill in charge of the economy?
Exactly.
Right?
Well, we don't know if that was going to happen. I think that was more in jest during the campaign. She did say in jest during the campaign.
I don't know that it was in jest.
I'm not sure that was really her intention.
She said it. You're right. She did say that.
It was a joke. I don't know what the punchline was.
Jared Kushner is a senior person to Donald Trump. There's no doubt about it. He's in his ear. He's a senior advisor. But does that create a conflict, Tony? I mean, I could understand the pushback. Nobody wants the White House to be a family business.
No, understood. And it appears that if Jared Kushner was going to take a job in the White House, or at least some sort of role, he wouldn't gain a salary from it. It's not as if he's profiting from the job. Having the council of people you respect and trust is an essential part of putting your team together. It's clear that Jared Kushner's influence throughout this campaign was a major positive. He restructured it from the very beginning after the Iowa caucuses. So clearly he is somebody who has the complete faith and confidence of the future president. Yeah. So in that regard, you can't just dismiss him because he's a family member. If there are laws, I'm sure they're going to abide by them in order to have him comply as someone advising the president.
Yeah, Gianna, what do you think about that? I mean, you know, Hillary Clinton also spoke for the first time publicly since her concession speech last night. She made some candid remarks. Listen to this. I want to get your reaction.
Coming here tonight wasn't the easiest thing for me. There have been a few times this past week when all I wanted to do was just to curl up with a good book or our dogs and never leave the house again. America is still the greatest country in the world. This is still the place where anyone can beat the odds.
Gianna, are you surprised by those remarks?
Well, not particularly. I think this is a time, and first and foremost, for the segment that you just mentioned, I agree with my big brother, Tony Sayegh, on the transition. But moving on, though, in terms of Hillary Clinton, I'm not particularly surprised by what she said. I appreciate her words on some of her points. And saying that we all must come together, and to her campaign slogan, stronger together, we must all be work together to make sure we have the country on the right track and support Donald Trump, our president-elect, and make sure that there's people in places in these particular roles that we can just have the betterment of our country. And I think that's what she should be saying. I think that's what President Obama should be saying and Bernie Sanders should be saying. And to some degree, we haven't heard a lot of that because, as President Obama said, you know, I'm going to give you 2 more weeks to kind of mope around, which he shouldn't say and he shouldn't encourage. But we should have, you know, leadership throughout the country, because it's not about being a Democrat or a Republican anymore. It's about being an American. And we must work together to make sure we have a strong country for everyone, as Mr. Trump has mentioned time and time again throughout this campaign.
First time we heard from Hillary Clinton since the concession speech.
Yeah, I thought that she was, you know, as everyone remarked, the concession speech itself was very gracious. But for me, the interesting aspect was, I don't know, the way when I was watching it, I thought, I wonder if she's really given up her dream being.
You think she'll be back in 4 years?
I don't know. I know that sounds.
I don't think time is on her side.
But there's something in her. I mean, you know, the very resilience that people have remarked upon, and she was talking about last night. Keep going, keep fighting for what you believe in. I don't know. I don't think you should ever.
She's not done with public life, that's for sure. But I don't see her running for president again.
So
I could be wrong. I would like to be wrong.
Well, the Kate McKinnon character on Saturday Night Live joked that if she got elected, that she would go away. That if she didn't get elected, she'd be running. You know, for the rest of her life. So if you go by that measure, you're going to have that. Look, I think her tone was good. The problem is you see this in Mayor de Blasio's comments just yesterday. There's opposition on the Democratic side that wants to seize this opportunity, this vacuum of leadership on their side. He's encouraging protesters. He's encouraging people to take to the streets. This is a very unconstructive way to move our country forward. And we just had an election where a lot of people had a chance to vote. And the reality of the matter is that is the ultimate verdict. So we have to, as a country, heal around that verdict and move forward and be stronger together. Wasn't that the quote of Hillary Clinton?
Yes, it was. I think there are some people, though, who are, I mean, legitimately scared. They're frightened. And
what are they frightened about?
They're frightened about a lot of the rhetoric that was used during the campaign, which they felt was targeted at them. And they're scared that this rhetoric is going to become action under a Trump administration. And they're valid concerns.
Yeah.
But do you effectuate the best means by protesting and by being angry? And I think
one of the issues that came up yesterday, and Bill de Blasio had a meeting with at Trump Tower yesterday, and he's refusing to comply with Trump's deportation policy ideas. De Blasio defended New York's sanctuary city status. Listen to this.
An undocumented person witnesses a crime. If an undocumented person is a victim of a crime, you don't want them unable to go to the police because they fear the next step is deportation. And law enforcement all over the country will tell you we will be creating a whole new problem if we do mass deportation.
So what's the answer, Evangeline?
Break the law? Continue to break the law? That's a great question. Great question, Maria. I think you're going to see this settled in the Supreme Court of the United States. I think the municipalities are going to hold strong to their laws. We're sanctuary cities. And I think the federal government is going to say, well, this is our directive and this is what we want you to do. And it's going to be settled in the Supreme Court. And you're going to have taxpayers who are going to be upset because they're going to feel that they're the ones who are funding the cost for this. And it's going to be a big issue.
Look, I believe in local government. I think in many ways our government is too centralized. But there are some aspects of policy that just make no sense unless they're handled at a national level, and immigration is one of them.
Right, yeah, it's not really a mayor's job.
A patchwork of different immigration laws in one country. It makes no sense.
It's incredible, actually, to hear de Blasio and Rahm Emanuel say that they're just going to ignore the rule of law. We'll see about that. Evangeline Gomez, Gianna Caldwell, good to see you both. Thank you so much. Coming up next, Facebook may have been stretching the truth, the consequences of the new metrics that it overstated to advertisers. That's next.